Part two. So I'm just going to take it a little further. We're going to today focus on mileage costs. We're gonna add this to the equation, this mileage part right here. That's one of the biggest disadvantages of leasing, that you're restricted as to the miles you can drive. So you know how they, you know that real estate agents or companies will actually lease cars sometimes for their fleet. Because they like to always just have a new car and then just return it and then start another lease, so they don't have to worry about downtime. Because companies, downtime kills business, right? If you can't go to your customer, if you say, hey, I can't deliver this, or I can't come and fix your furnace because my van is down, out of service, it affects everything. It affects all your clients, and it may affect your reputation. But businesses like it for that reason, reliability, and also it's a tax write-off. For businesses, the payment is a tax write-off, right, for leasing. So there's a little bit of a lure there for businesses. For private owners, it's probably not a good idea to lease. But anyways, we're gonna deal with the mileage here, and just remember, total lease cost, we had three components that make up the lease. Okay, this is just the lease part, it's not buying it. And then remember I said cross off residual value and just call it the buyout. The buyout, you need to be familiar with the term buyout, because that is this specifically to leasing. We got an email on that. Buyout is specifically to leasing, which happens at the end of the lease. Do you have to buy the car? You don't. If you're not happy with it, just bring it back, and theoretically you walk away and that's it. However, they always do an inspection before and after. And my gut is just telling me they're going to find something, right? And then you're going to be like, oh, what? It's going to cost me $5,000 to repair the damages? And you're going to be like, $5,000? But if you buy it, because it's your car, you made those damages, chances are you're okay with it. If you buy it, we'll just waive the fees, right? So they'll kind of try to get you there a certain way. Okay, 50. Let's go to 50. I'll use those formulas here. Down payment is not taxed. Remember that? The down payment is never taxed. So you got to be careful there. So what's different with 50? There's a mileage charge there. Okay, that question refers to leasing with some mileage costs. So here it is. Michelle's returning a Toyota Corolla, which she leased for 3 years. Leasing, I like months, okay? So let's just times that by 12 and just say, hey, that's the equivalent of 36 months. All right. 3 years, 36 months. The original purchase price was $24,000 before taxes. So let's highlight that with, I'm going to use a different color. Because guess what? When it comes down to buying a leased car, you're not going to pay the original price. You're just going to, it's going to be less than that. So, but we're going to keep an eye on that 24,000. Michelle paid $310 plus taxes per month. So these were the monthly payments. So we're situating ourselves in a position where we are at the end of that lease, right? We kind of talk about what happened, but it doesn't change things really. There was a down payment of $4,000, right? So payment and down payment were there. The guaranteed residual value stated in the contract is $15,600. I'm going to use yet a different color for that one. The guaranteed residual value is $15,600 before taxes. The lease agreement allows for 12,000 kilometers per year. I'm going to use a different color for that one. Lease agreement allows for 12,000 kilometers per year. Okay, with a charge of 15 cents per kilometer over the limit. The vehicle is returned with an odometer reading of 41,200. A lot of information, I know it. I feel your pain, guys. Okay. Chances are you're not going to get like that many moving pieces on an exam, but I can't do like 1,000 small questions. I just do one that kind of deals with most of the pieces that you can come up with. A, calculate the total mileage charge Michelle will have to pay after taxes. Okay, and this is where I'm going to use the formulas on 46. I'm actually going to have my original here. And we need to figure out the kilometers past limit. Kilometers over limit. You need to find out how much over are you. So allowance, right? So we went 41,200 kilometers minus, what was the allowance here? I will do this on the side. Allowance, we had a 3-year lease and we were allowed to drive 12,000 kilometers per year. So 3 times 12. Usually these are numbers that are fairly easy to just compute. So this is what you were allowed. Question, is it possible to drive all of this in the first year? Yeah, they won't care like if you drive this all in the first year, second year, but overall you're allowed 36,000 based on that lease agreement. So I'm going to make an arrow coming out of that statement and just saying, hey, that's what we're doing here. Can I just say something? Sometimes they will just flat out tell you, listen carefully, you're allowed to drive 50,000 kilometers. Flat out, right? It's not per year. It'll just say flat out, you can drive this many kilometers for the entire lease. Don't multiply if that's the case, right? Then just take that number. We're going to subtract it from what we actually drove. Okay, so we took this, put it in there. So let's go ahead and subtract this. I'm going to use my handy calculator here. So it's 5,200 kilometers. This is how many kilometers over limit you drove. So now the charge. Cost would be 5,200 kilometers. We multiply that by 0.15, which is 15 cents. And we're going to add taxes to that. So we can do it all in one shot. So here it is. Grab your calculator. I already have that number on there. I'm just going to go times 0.15 times 1.12. 873.60. On average, people drive about 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers per month. On average. It depends on how much you drive, obviously. Okay. Calculate the total cost of the lease after tax. I want you to focus on this. The cost of the lease, correct? We're not worrying about purchasing, about the buyout. This is just the lease. And look at the components for the lease here. Total, I call this total lease, is you take your down, if there is one, you take total payments, and you go and add the mileage to it. This one has no tax, right? You got to make sure you make a note of that. The down payment does not get taxed. Everything else does. So ready? A down payment, is there one? Go look, go scan. It's right up here. Yes, there is one. Four grand. Keep it like that. Plus, I'm going to put total payments in brackets because it's going to be it's going to involve more than just a number. So how do I find my total payments? It says, right, take the 310 and multiply it by, how many payments are we making? 3 years, 36 months. We're making 36 payments. Okay. And I'm going to add taxes to it. So you can either do it first or after, it doesn't matter. So 1.12 plus mileage. Do I need to add taxes to mileage in this case? If I copy that number, scan it, right? Taxes are already applied. So we just copy it, right? Already taxed. It's already taxed. So let's clean this up. So I multiplied just the payment part, and there it is. It's 12,499.2 plus 873.60. Oops. There we go. Total paid for the lease. For the lease agreement, right? So if you wanted to say like, hey, how much did that lease alone cost you? Well, you need to be considering 3 things potentially that could show up. You good? All right. C, determine the cost to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease after tax. This is called the buyout. Cost to purchase. You're going to be sick and tired of me saying it, but if I get an email where they tell me, make sure students know that it's going to be referred to as buyout, I'm going to make sure you know. That's my job. So the buyout is going to be the residual value, and this should be as a dollar amount, times 1.12. Here you have to be careful. The residual value is sometimes stated as a percentage. So it could be 60% of the original, or sometimes it's a flat number. In this case, it's a flat number, correct? Go scan. I'm just going to quickly show you. Scan the text here, and it says the guarantee, that's in pink here, guaranteed residual value is 15,600. So that's all we need to grab there for this calculation. 15,600 times 1.12. this last exam had it as a percentage. So you would have to first figure out what this is. So 15,600 times 1.12, voila, right? This is, let the marks tell you how much work you will need to do. So if this had been a 2-mark question, it would probably mean that you first have to figure out your residual value, right? 80% times, what was the original? 24,000. And then you add taxes, right? So there would be that extra step. It's okay to leave it like this, but I'm going to go 0, 0. In this case, it would have been okay to omit the zeros because there are no cents. This one is very rare, but it's like the cost of the lease and the purchase. So lease plus the buyout. Right? You're basically just going to add these two numbers here, the total lease and the buyout. So 17,372.80 plus 17,472. And I will just give you the answer because you have this. Here we go. 34,844 and 80 cents. That's the lease. So now I want to compare this to a financing because remember, leasing is an alternative to financing. That's what it is, right? It's the payments are always lower. That's why a lot of people like to lease a car because then they can afford it. That's another way to get people to lease, right? You know, when you go to a dealership, you buy a used car, a lot of them are lease returns. Okay? So they don't get to sell, they don't sell all their new vehicles necessarily. The ones that are not sold, they usually lease them, and then somebody drives it for a couple of years, brings them back, and then the dealer will sell those if the person doesn't want to buy them, right? So just remember that. If Michelle would have financed the amount over 4 years at an interest rate of 5.25, calculate the total cost of purchase, including the total interest. What? Say what? I'm wondering if I'm just going to leave this. I will just say, if time allows. I just wanted you to see that it's still cheaper to finance because leasing is actually quite expensive. So we'll just leave it if time allows. If you're interested, I'll try to sneak that in later on. Okay, now I want you to spend time on pages 51 all the way to, actually, hold on. We're going to go 54 to 56. That's where I'm going to send you now. So write this down maybe at the bottom of 50, homework, even though I want you to do it here, 54 to 56. There's a leasing worksheet there. That way you can, I have a key for that one, so I'll just post it in a bit.